I know you'll know where this is coming from. Is there a judgment day?
There is, and it happens in every moment, and you are the judge.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
I get that.
So you say, I get to decide my degree of punishment, and I get to apply it now. The only hell that exists is that space between who you really are and what you're allowing to be.
Thank you.
This is good news.
That's the real good. I do have one other. I know in your words you always talk about that we've always been alive. There's no such thing as death. I usually interpret that as a future concept. But it also implies that I've always been alive. And why do I not have any memory of these billions and billions of years?
Well, you know how in the same way that you cannot really get your thoughts around your future, you cannot really get your thoughts around your true past either, because your power is all here in the now. It's a little distorted in your physical environment because you stand in your now and you can remember when your father was beating you and when the nuns were beating you. You can remember different things from this life experience, and so you say, I can remember past. And then you say, and I can anticipate future. And we say, well, you can remember past and you can anticipate future, but you're doing it all from the now. So now think about yourself in a now, but in a non-physical now. So think about your inner being in your inner being's now. Now, your inner being does not have the limitations of resistance. And so when your inner being anticipates future without automatically applying past failures, future is clearer and purer and more realized in the now. And so from the non-physical perspective, you have a broader range of your sense of knowing because you don't automatically introduce so much resistance to the thought as you try to compare one thing to the other. Let us be clearer about that. We want to do a little bit of a sales job to help you to feel the potency and the power of this juncture where you meet you. And we want you to feel the exhilaration that your inner being feels when your inner being is aware of where you are and what's around you and what you want. Each moment that a preference is born, which is in every moment, those preferences are preceding you in a sort of pre-paving manner. And source energy, all that is, God force, your inner being, all the fairies of the universe, whatever your label you're wanting to apply to it, see your rocket of preference rise and flow, and all of that energy gets focused toward the creating of that which you're wanting. Because in the moment that an idea occurs to you, source energy begins flooding energy toward it. So consciousness, even the consciousness that is your own inner being, begins to anticipate the fulfillment of that desire. And your inner being is so non-resistant that in the anticipation of what you are calling a future fulfillment, your inner being experiences a now fulfillment. You get that?
Yes.
That's really big.
Yeah.
So your inner being is literally living your future dreams, working the kinks out of them, feeling the exhilaration of them. That's what that feeling of inspiration is that you get. It's that feeling of source energy calling you toward your own creations, you see. And so that's why when you are following a hunch or following an impulse, it feels so tangible and so irresistible because the energy is so powerfully calling you. And we want to note the stark difference between that kind of inspiration, which is you being called to something that you've already created, and motivation, which is you trying to push away from something that you don't want to create. Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. I have 4 children, and 2 grown and 2 young children. And my 2 grown children were excellent students, very, very bright, very capable, have moved off into their own worlds and their own lives very successfully. My two younger children, my son, who is 9, has learning issues. And
Yeah, his learning issues. I don't want to learn what you want me to learn.
well, that is very true.
He would tell us, you have the issues.
Well, that's what I'm struggling with.
He's not as easy to hammer that peg into that hole as your older children.
Exactly. He's very, very smart.
Yes?
But he doesn't learn in the environment that society demands. And
that's because he has come forth to help us speak what we've been speaking all day here today, that they don't know. In other words, it's interesting as you talk about these older 2 children and these 2 children. And you talk about the older 2 and you say, they went through the paces, they jumped through the hoops, they learned what they should, and they're very successful. And we are not in question of that. We would not call them unhappily molded into something that they did not want to be. But these children that you are talking about now, and it is becoming very common with the energies that are coming forth, they are less willing to be guided by exterior standards and more insistent on guiding themselves from their own place of knowing.
So how do you cope with this? He's in a special school. And
what's the name of the school? What is the title that the school has been given?
You mean the actual name of the school?
We mean the generic name of the school.
Well,
special. How special is it? They give them ice cream every day? The most special of people attend?
It's for children with language-based learning issues. And
at least the word is issue instead of disability.
Yes. They don't talk about disabilities anymore. They're always issues. And I'm not quite sure whose issues they are, but
we are.
Ultimately,
this is where we put the children who will not be obedient, who will not follow the plan that was the easiest for us. In other words, think about it. If you are a teacher and you have 30 or 40 children in your classroom, would you like them all to be independent and eager and varied in their interests and full of enthusiasm and summoning powerfully? Or would you like them to be similar in what they want and quiet in their expression of it and willing to listen to one thing at a time? In other words, what would be easier for you as the mother-teacher society system? Imagine an army, a battalion with 100 men who all have their individual idea of how to approach this. And you would say, oh, well, there would be chaos. We could not conclude any common purpose. And we say, the problem with the way society and schools are established is that you assume a common purpose. And what society usually assumes is it is the purpose that they most want. In other words, the army assumes that everyone wants to meet their goals. And the school system often does the same thing. Parents do. Mentors do. Almost everybody assumes that everybody that they interact with is there to please them. And individual guidance systems defy that. Individual guidance systems say that the entire universe is established to please the individual. So the big question that we are really talking about here is, how can I maintain my joyous individuality while I'm being socialized into a system that thinks that they want conformity?
I personally struggle with this very much. Drugs has been the major issue over the last few years. The school he's in, he's borderline for what they call attention deficit. And so my husband and I have both been very resistant to putting him on drugs.
Well, now think about why the school, teacher, system, society would want to medicate him. It's easier to get him to conform. In other words, he will be less interested in what he's interested in.
So how do you deal with that as a parent? I mean, we have a child who somehow has to learn what he needs to learn to get through school.
Well, what is it that he needs to learn that he seems unwilling to learn?
He can't get directions. When you give him anything verbally, it's very hard for him to understand what's being said to him. He can't grasp it.
So, is your question, how can my child be most joyful? How can my child be most the child he came forth to be? Or is your question, how can I teach my child to conform to what somebody else thinks he should be? What's the question? Because it would evoke a very different answer.
I guess what I'm struggling with is, how do I cope with all of this as his mother? I struggle daily with him because...
So give us an example of something that is a struggle. How does it show up in your life?
Okay. Getting him dressed in the morning. You say,
how old is he?
He's 9. You say you have to be downstairs for breakfast at a certain amount of time to eat your breakfast so you can get ready to get to school on time. And he really, really struggles anytime he has to make a transition from point A to point B.
So what's he doing that instead of getting dressed? What's he doing?
He gets lost in space in his room.
Well, now that isn't true. He's not lost in space. He's doing something. This is your terminology to try to invalidate whatever it is that he is doing. In other words, he's lost in space because he's not doing what I want him to do,
right.
But we promise you he's not lost in space. He's in there doing something. What do you think he's doing? Is it something he hates doing or something he wants to do? Something he'd rather do?
He loves doing what he wants, he loves his Legos, he loves...
Oh, isn't that different? Doesn't that feel different? In other words, doesn't it feel different to say he loves his Legos than he's lost in space?
Yeah.
He loves his Legos. And so are you saying to us that he would rather play with his Legos than eat breakfast?
Yes.
And is it any skin off your nose if he plays with his Legos instead of eating breakfast? What would happen if he played with his Legos and didn't eat breakfast and went to school? What would happen?
He'll get really hungry, and then he won't be able to focus at school.
Well, he can't focus in school anyway, so there's no problem there. He'd just be hungry and not focusing, that's all. He'd be focused on being hungry is what would happen. He'd be focused on being hungry, and a new desire would be launched within him. And that new desire would be not to get to school hungry again. So now, because you've allowed him to have that real experience and come to his real conclusion, now he's in his room playing Legos. And you're saying, time for breakfast so that we can go to school. And he's not making sense of it still. He's still in his own pattern of resistance of what you want and playing with his Legos. So again, he plays with his Legos, he misses breakfast again, he goes to school, and again, he feels hungry. And now, clarity is coming forth to him about what he is wanting. And so now the next day he's in his room and he's playing with his Legos. And you say, do you want breakfast or do you want to play with your Legos? It's up to you. In other words, do you want breakfast? I don't want you to be hungry later. But do you want breakfast? And he makes the connection. And now because he doesn't want to be hungry, because he wants to feel better later in the day, he chooses to satisfy his own desire and have breakfast. And there's no resistance within that, you see? Can you feel the difference? Mm-hmm. You are born with such desire and knowledge of freedom and empowerment that when someone tries to deprive you from it, you sort of go berserk. And that's really what's happening here. In other words, there's sort of an inner rebellion that says, nobody's going to keep me from the freedom that I want. And so what we would do, we would begin honoring that freedom. We would begin wanting him to feel more free. We would begin wanting him to make more choices. And we would begin to let him feel the results of the choices that he is making.